Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Drunken Rancor. My name is Chase, and today we will be continuing our chapter-by-chapter breakdown of Heir to the Empire. So as always, pour yourself a glass of something good. Today's drink of choice will be a Kentucky bourbon called Pinhook. Chapter 4 begins with the Chimera making its way from Mirkir, where it had previously collected the Yaslamari, to the planet of Wayland. A 350 light-year journey that took them 5 days at their .4 cruising speed. Now the base speed of light is set at 0 on this system of measurement, and anything higher just increases the speed. This form of measuring how fast a ship is will eventually be changed, and an Imperial Star Destroyer will be given a Class 2 hyperdrive, and the Millennium Falcon will be given a Class .5, with the lower number being faster. The problem with riding a way to measure how fast ships go in Star Wars is that the Millennium Falcon is supposed to be one of the fastest ships in the galaxy. And in A New Hope, Han brags that his ship can do .5 past the speed of light, meaning that .5 has to be the top speed in any measurement system you use. It's similar to how in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin comments on how he thought Grievous would be taller, meaning that they had never encountered each other before, meaning that in the entire run of Clone Wars, Anakin and Grievous could not meet, or it would break the movie's canon. So an entire 7-season-long war, 2 of the leading generals could not meet or really interact very much for the entire series. So while it took the Chimera 5 days to make the trip, it would probably have taken the Millennium Falcon 4 or maybe even 3, though the engineers on the Chimera benefited from the longer time, since it took them that long to work out a way to create a portable build harness that allowed someone to transport a Yaslamari without harming it. The large frames needed to transport the Yaslamari were heavy, and Palion asked Thrawn if they were really necessary, that if the Guardian of Wayland was placed there by the Emperor, wouldn't he be loyal to the Empire? Thrawn states that this is merely a precaution. It is here that we find out why Thrawn was so interested in the Yaslamari. They were a means to protect themselves from the Guardian of Wayland, and judging from who all the Emperor had serving him, from Vader to the Inquisitors or the Emperor's hands like Mara, even the Shadow Guards would be an incredibly dangerous person to deal with. Thrawn and Palion travel down to the planet's surface, with Palion once again voicing his concern as to why they didn't bring any stormtroopers with them. Thrawn tells him that a Dark Jedi's pride was easily offended, and considering pride is like the #1 reason that Jedi fall to the dark side. After all, most Jedi usually fall to the dark side believing that they are strong enough to resist it. While every other Jedi that has used the dark side fell, they were stronger than them, and they would be able to resist it. All in all, insulting a Dark Jedi by showing up as soldiers would probably be a death sentence. Besides, as Thrawn points out, they had Rook with them, further showing on how dangerous the Nagri are. After all, Thrawn considers them equal to an entire squad of stormtroopers. Thrawn also points out that anyone high enough in the Empire to be trusted with such a task as guarding the Emperor's vaults on Wayland would know about the Nagri, and that knowledge would act as a further deterrent. Palion asks Thrawn as to why he seems so sure that the Guardian would be a Dark Jedi, and Thrawn points out that it would be either that or a garrison of stormtroopers and AT-ATs backing them up, something that Palion noted wasn't seen on the sensors. Palion also notes that the Emperor could have called the Guardian back in order to fight the rebels, something that Thrawn says is a possibility. As the shuttle comes in for a landing, they circle the city at the base of the mountain, and Thrawn notes that there are at least 3 different forms of architecture in the buildings around the city, 1 human and 2 aliens. Thrawn puts on his Yaslamari harness, and Palion checks his blaster. Exiting the shuttle, Thrawn notes that 3 of the art styles have all been incorporated into a large palace. Palion wonders if any of them are hostile, and Thrawn comments that most alien species are. Which, I mean, he isn't wrong, though instead of saying most alien species, I would just say all species, except for those weird lemur things in the Clone Wars. They were peaceful up until the Jedi arrived and taught them that killing is good as long as you're on the Jedi side, which is usually the stance the Jedi take throughout the war. After all, they commit so many war crimes throughout that war. No one confronts them as they make their way away from the shuttle. In fact, no one at all appears in front of them. Thrawn pulls out a pocket megaphone and begins calling out to the people of the village, requesting that one of them take him to the Guardian of the Mountain. Getting no reply, Thrawn decides to go with the Imperial approach, threatening the village if they do not comply. The villagers handled this about as well as you would expect if someone walked into your town and told you they were going to kill everyone if you don't comply with them. And they instantly shot an arrow at Thrawn. The arrow harmlessly bounces off of Thrawn's armor, which was hidden under his uniform. Halting Rook, who instantly jumped forward to his master's aid, Thrawn once again addressed the people of the village, telling them to witness what happens when you cross the Empire. Thrawn sends Rook to deal with them, and after all the hype, we finally see a glimpse of why the Nagri is so dangerous. With precision and ruthlessness, Rook begins to bring down the entire building. Now this is described as being a primitive building, but is also described as being 2 stories. And seeing as most of Star Wars buildings appear to have been made out of metal, I would assume primitive is probably just a wooden building. So this is a 2-story wooden house. And Rook brings it down with maybe 100 shots with his blaster. It's never said what blaster he is using. Most things I've seen to depict him with an E11 or the standard issue of a Stormtrooper. Now the fact that it says the building came crashing down is what really impresses me. Because like I said, this is a 2-story structure. So it's not like it's some primitive tent or teepee. And he brings it down with pretty close to 100 shots. It says he fires 20 through the windows and doors to keep people from running out before focusing on the walls and upper floor to bring it down. So around 100, maybe 150 shots. The standard issue rifle for most Earth militaries is going to be chambered in either 5.56 or 7.62. It would probably take several thousand rounds of these calibers in order to bring down a 2-story house. And that is with precise shooting. Honestly, if you told a squad of Marines to bring down a building using only their gunfire, they would probably run out of bullets before the building came down. After all, a 5.56 is 0.223 inches in diameter, or 5.56 millimeters, which gives it its name. The bullets are small and fast, and while they're really good at penetrating, it would be about the same as trying to take down a house with a drill and a drill bit. You can do it, but it's going to take a lot. Even a 50 BMG would take more than 100 rounds to bring down a building, and that's one of the largest rifles in the military. Though, in actuality, if you asked a squad of Marines to bring down a building, they'd probably just chunk a few grenades inside or blow it apart with an underslung grenade launcher. There isn't much need for a soldier to have that much damage capacity with a standard rifle. In fact, it would actually be a danger to have your standard issue weapon be that powerful. After all, most soldiers will not have perfect accuracy, and even if they did, there is a lot of use of cover fire to suppress an enemy in warfare. If every time you call "cover me," your squad just obliterates a city block, while probably really effective at killing your enemy, it would not be the best at capturing a position or rescuing friendlies. The United States military has more than enough firepower to just carpet bomb anyone we fight against into oblivion, but we don't because destruction is not always the aim of the military operation. It would also be terrible to use such a destructive weapon inside of your base. After all, think about it if the stormtroopers that were shooting at Han, Luke, and Leia in the Death Star blew massive chunks out of the wall every time they missed. They may not have destroyed the Death Star, but they certainly would have caused some serious damage to it. Though, this can probably just be explained away by saying Rook has an extra powerful blaster, or that most stormtroopers can adjust the power on their blaster, and Rook's is just set to the max. Well, I got really off topic on that one. Anyways, Thrawn once again asks the people of Wayland to take him to their guardian, and this time he is answered by an old man. Tall and skinny with long, unkempt gray hair and a beard that reached his stomach, brown robes, and sandals. All he was missing was a pointy hat and a staff, and he could cosplay as Gandalf. Now, knockoff Gandalf addresses them, stating that they were off-worlders. When Thrawn asks who he is, the man ignores him and looks at the destroyed building, stating that the building was his and that he rules here. There is a brief pause as Thrawn and the man face off before Thrawn states that he is here to see the Guardian. The man agrees to take them to him, leading them into the palace. Thrawn comments on how he believed the Guardian would be living on the mountain, and the man replies that he did once. But the people built him this palace shortly after the man began his rule. The man tells the guards to leave, and two men holding crossbows steps out from their hiding spots before the walkway. I'm assuming these are real crossbows that fire arrows, since Thrawn was hit by one, and not the bowcasters that Chewie carries, which would have probably obliterated Thrawn had it hit him. Well, maybe. In the original trilogy, it seemed to do the same as any other blaster, but man did he soup that thing up between then and the sequel trilogy. The man leads Thrawn and his company into the palace, which is, they soon realize, is a crypt. The room is empty save for a large stone coffin in the middle and many flickering candles. Thrawn states that the villagers must be honoring the Guardian's death, but is corrected when the old man states that no. The candles mark every off-worlder who has come to this planet, that he killed them all, as well as killing the Guardian, and that he would soon kill them too. Pelion spins around, drawing his blaster, as Thrawn takes his time, seemingly unconcerned by this threat. Without warning, the old man sends a volley of force lightning at them, the blue lightning crackling as it shot through their air, only to disappear about a meter away from them. Pelion aimed his blaster, but was stopped by Thrawn, as calm as ever, even though he had Hobo Gandalf shooting lightning at them. Thrawn continues to address the old man, as the Guardian, as he points out that they were not off-worlders, that they were not the regular off-worlders he's used to dealing with, only to have the old man reply with more lightning. The old man shouts that the Guardian is dead, to which Thrawn says the old man is the new guard, that he now protects the Emperor's vaults. The old man replies that he serves no one, and that his power is his alone. But he does halt his attack, seemingly puzzled as to how they can block this attack without being Jedi. Thrawn offers to teach him if he joins them, but the man states that he is a Jedi Master, that he joins no one. Though for a Jedi Master he seemed to be slinging a whole lot of force lightning. Though he could always do like Plo Koon and just call it electric judgment and apparently be fine. That's something I wish the Clone Wars had included. The fact that Plo Koon could and would on occasion use force lightning without using the dark side. The main time he used it was a hostage situation where someone was about to kill a child, and since the man was too far away for Plo Koon to stab with his lightsaber, he just got him with lightning. And I mean, considering it didn't kill him, it's basically just a force taser. So, yeah, I'd rather be shot with a force taser than stabbed with a lightsaber. I don't know why the Jedi are not more apt to use this. But, yeah, that should have definitely been in the Clone Wars. I want Plo Koon and his force taser running through Coruscant, chasing bad guys. Make it like an episode of Cops. Thrawn gives him a counteroffer of letting them join him, something the old man agrees to, stating that they may talk. Thrawn asks the man's name, to which he replies that he is Joruus C'baoth. And yes, that is Joris with a J sound, and not an H sound like Horus. Now that means nothing to nearly all of the audience, but the first time I read this, I pronounced it as Joris, and my brother laughed at me and told me that it was actually Horus. Well, who's laughing now? That's right, all of these breakdowns, this entire channel, is nothing more than a convoluted, petty way to say I was right and you were wrong. So Saboth leads them out of the crypt and back to the village, where everyone is now visible but huddling away from both the crypt and the shuttle. Everyone except one of the guards. Saboth points out that the house they destroyed was his, and most likely had his family inside. But before anyone could react, the man raised the crossbow and shot at them. Saboth calmly catches it in the force, freezing it in place, similar to how Kylo freezes a blaster bolt, just not nearly impressive because it's just a bow and arrow, and tells everyone present that the Imperials were his guests and would be treated as much. To emphasize his point, he shatters the arrow with the force. Thrawn signals Rook, who tries to shoot the man, but once again Saboth uses the force, this time to lift a rock and intercept the shot, because apparently he can't freeze blaster bolts. For the first time, we see Thrawn nearly lose his cool, rounding on Saboth, who calmly tells the Grand Admiral that these are his people and any punishment for their actions will be handled by him. Thrawn calms down, and Saboth leads them away to a small, comfortable room where he sits down on a cushion on the floor, signaling them to join him on other cushions. Thrawn sits across from Saboth, who immediately demands to be told how they stopped his attack. Thrawn tries to first give them their offer, but Saboth insists he is to be told. Thrawn tells him of the Yaslamari and about how they have the ability to nullify the Force around them, something that shocks Saboth, the Jedi Master having never heard of such a power. Thrawn tells him that he himself has no idea why they have this power, but he finds it very useful for his purpose. Saboth angers slightly at that, stating that the purpose was to overcome his power, though Thrawn corrects him, stating that he had no idea that Saboth would be here, that it was the Emperor's guardian that the Yaslamari were meant to protect against. Thrawn also hints at another use for the Yaslamari, but refrains from telling him what that is. Thrawn states that he has need of some of the technology that is stored in the vaults, that before the Emperor's death, that it was rumored that the Empire had developed a highly effective cloaking device, and Thrawn believed that it would be in these vaults, as well as some of the other tech he wanted. Saboth surprises them by saying that he has been in the storerooms, and while there is a lot of tech there, there's also a lot of useless trophies the Emperor has collected over the years. Something I find interesting about the Emperor's vaults is that one of the main plot points of Star Wars Empire at War Forces of Corruption is to find and gain access to the Emperor's vaults, and the game ends with you stealing the access codes for the vaults. So I guess that might explain why Tiber Zahn, the main character of the game, and his criminal empire didn't take over when Jabba died. Maybe Saboth just killed them when they came to collect what's inside the vaults. Thrawn informs Saboth that he would also need the help of a Jedi Master. The old man scoffs at this, stating this is when they offer him all the power he could want. Thrawn asked him if he was familiar with the Battle of Endor, and how the rebels managed to beat a much larger force, when they were outnumbered and outgunned 10-1. Saboth says that he just assumed the rebels were better warriors, and Thrawn agrees, though he says their superiority was nothing to do with their skill and more to do with the failure of the Empire. Instead, it happened when the Emperor was killed. Thrawn then addresses Palaeon, who was at the battle, asking him about the loss of will when the Emperor died, the loss of cohesion that cost the fleet the Executor, as well as 6 other Star Destroyers. That being said, thinking back to Revenge of the Sith, unless the scenes were recorded out of order, I'm pretty sure the Executor gets destroyed before Vader tosses the Emperor down the reactor core. Palion tries to deny this, claiming that the Emperor was not directing the battle, but Thrawn continues saying that he was using his will to drive them on. This is in fact the first mention of battle meditation in Legends, though it would come up again several times, especially in the game Knights of the Old Republic. C'baoth asks if this is what Thrawn wants, for him to control Thrawn's fleet like a bunch of puppets, but Thrawn tells him no, that Palpatine made a mistake by trying to control too much at once. Instead, he wants C'baoth to help coordinate only small task forces, and only in certain moments. C'baoth asks why, and for the first time since they arrive, Thrawn seems to be caught off guard by this question. He answers for power, the power to conquer worlds and rebuild the Empire. C'baoth kind of laughs at this. He's not impressed, and he tells Thrawn that rebuilding the Empire is not power. Real power is what he has here. That he controls the people here, their lives, their deaths, having claim on planets that he will never visit, or destroying enemies he will never face, has no interest to him. And I think this may have been the reason that Palpatine allowed him to live after he killed the Guardian. I sincerely doubt that Palpatine didn't know that C'baoth had killed the Guardian, though there's some debate on whether or not C'baoth was the original Guardian, or just made up the Guardian. But it does make sense that if Palpatine knew about him, that with his lack of ambition to rule more than a planet, that C'baoth could micromanage, that he would make a great guard dog for the temple or vault on Wayland. Thrawn offers C'baoth any city he wants, once they rebuild the Empire, but C'baoth states that he already has one on Wayland. Why would he need another? Thrawn insists that he needs C'baoth for a plan, and he will have him. This amuses C'baoth, and he asks if Thrawn will have his Nagri try and kill him, stating that yes, he knew about the Nagri, or if Thrawn would have Palion try and attack the city with a Star Destroyer, though he wonders if they could destroy the city without harming the mountain. Palion takes annoyance with this and tells him that they could level the city without singeing a blade of grass on the mountainside. Thrawn points out that of course C'baoth has all the power he needs, that they would stand no chance against him because C'baoth must have multiple Jedi under his command. C'baoth seems thrown off by the change of subject. He becomes angered as he says that Vader and the Emperor had hunted down and killed all the Jedi, that he was the last. Though there are actually a lot of Jedi that survive Order 66. Thrawn told C'baoth that 2 new Jedi had recently arisen. While C'baoth seemed unconvinced at first, after Thrawn promised to capture them for him, with the added bonus that Leia was pregnant with Jedi twins that C'baoth could train, C'baoth finally agrees to join Thrawn. The group then ventures into the mountain, where they find the cloaking device, as well as the other bit of tech Thrawn was looking for. We switch scenes to later time, where Palion meets with Thrawn on the command room aboard the Chimera. The two discuss C'baoth, with Palion voicing his concern that the man's insanity. Thrawn says that C'baoth is completely insane, and that he's also not the original man, that who they met was a clone. The real C'baoth was killed by Thrawn when he destroyed the outbound flight on a mission that contained 6 Jedi Masters, and was sent out by the Old Republic to explore outside of the galaxy. Palion then thinks back to the Clone Wars, and how the clones the New Republic army encountered were highly unstable and crazy, asking Thrawn why he would bring such a thing onto his ship. Now this is a discrepancy that will continue throughout the series. These books were written before the prequel series, and Lucas had not told Timothy Zahn that the clones were the good guys, that fought with the Republic during the war. So several times throughout the series, there will be mentions of how scared everyone is about clones attacking the galaxy again, or about how dangerous and crazy clones are. Thrawn points out that had they found a Dark Jedi with ambitions to rule, then it would have been even worse, and that they always have the Yaz-Lamari if Saboth causes any trouble. Thrawn tells Palion not to worry, as he has everything under control. Well, this is Chapter 4 of Heir to the Empire. I hope you're all enjoying it, and as always, raise your glass, and may the Force be with you.